fell in love with the notion. Fell in love with the notion. And he lost
It's
the
a
woman.
manic Monday, manic Monday, manic Monday with your favorite maniac. Manic Monday, manic Monday, manic
1990
Monday,
22.
your favorite maniac. Manic Monday, manic Monday, manic Monday, your favorite maniac. It's a manic Monday, manic Monday. It's a manic Monday with your favorite maniac. Welcome to Manic Music Media Monday. Today we will be covering the September issue of the Manic Music Media Watchlist, September 2024. Just in case you are listening to this in the future, watching this in the future, of any form of platform, of any form of digestion. And if you want to get the September Manic Music Media Watchlist, you want to get updates for it all month, not only getting the initial email sent directly to your inbox, all you have to do is join Switch's Theory of Cool on Substack. The details are in the bio, in the description. Join Peacock and not only get this watch list, get updates on music and a bunch of other content that I'm doing, because I got a theory and it's cool. And you know what else is cool? Last month, I gave myself a pat on the back, but I refuse to go all out because it wasn't a streak. We were just getting back into it. We were doing 2 months in a row, but just because we were happy about it, just because we were proud of that, that did not make it a streak. A MTV Fest is what I like to call it. Now, it is the month of October. It is a 3P. It is a 3T, a talk that talk, because your boy has made a streak. That's spelled STR3AK. We're back at it. If we've done this 3 months in a row, I don't know what the statistics are behind it. I don't know. I'm sure there's a statistic. It's like, if you do this amount of times, then you are patternized to do it more than anybody else. Whatever that streak is, whatever that statistic is, whatever the analytics are, I'm claiming it. Welcome to 2024 America. Who cares about the facts? That's sad. But my opinion is this streak is a remarkable thing, and I need to be rewarded with a double pat on my back. Oh, that felt great, actually. Oh, the cracks. Did you stretch today? I hope you stretched today. I'll be honest, I didn't stretch the way I needed to stretch, but I made up on sleep. Okay, it is a Manic Music Media Monday. We're happy. We've reconnected a little bit. Let's get into just a few details before we dive into September's Manic Music Media Watch List. We have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of content, and I'm fun, and I'm excited. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe here on switch.nyc. That is the main direct link to the YouTube page. Subscribe. Also, if you want to check out content and apparel, check out switch.shop. Remember that P is silent, and we have all apparel there. That's all Tyler PSwitch Dow apparel there. And if you want even more apparel, go to apkc.shop, and that is the full designs that I do. If you want to stay connected on updates on a monthly basis, and just all the other connections, we have a new link. It is switch.life. So things are all coming together. And as I already mentioned, if you want not only the monthly watch list, or you want any of the other things that I am doing, if you want to get them directly into your inbox, join Switch's Theory of Cool at switch.substack.com. If you get the actual app and you download it, then you will get updates for everything that we do monthly, or actually as they happen. And if not, you'll just get the monthly emails that we do sent out. All right, housekeeping over. Remember a few months ago, it might have been last month, when I could not remember the word housekeeping? Look, those days are long gone, and now it's coming naturally. If you haven't, check out Manic Music Media Mondays number 11, the second one that we have done this year, covering August's Manic Music Media Watch List. That was a fun one. We did a little bit something new with it. If you know what that something is, if you can figure out what it was, leave a comment or something about it. Show me. I'm making some food. Show me that you are connected enough to notice all those details, because that will mean the world to me. When I pick out those details of something that I'm a fan of, it means a lot to me, like when things change or when not. When if there's been a bit of an audio change up, the food is done being made. But let's dive into it. Okay, so the weekly TV watch list for the month of September features a few newcomers that we will get into and a few other things. So on Sunday, we have the Penguin. Penguin was brand new, added to this list. I'm a few weeks into it now that we are actually in the month of October, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been a great show. I also did a few days on it, doing some acting, so I'm also excited to see when that episode comes up and how we'll feel on the other side of it. Moving on, we have Industry, which I will definitely dive into more. One of my favorite shows on television, and Last Week Tonight finally did make a return. Then on Mondays, we have the basics, WWE Raw, The Daily Show. You know how it goes. We don't have to dive too deeply into it. Moving on. Tuesdays, we have WWE NXT. The major thing to talk about for NXT is that in the month, I believe, October 1st, they made the move from the USA to the CW, which ultimately what that changed was now you can no longer watch it live on CW. And that is a huge, downgrade in service. What the hell? I'm not going to dive more deeply into that right now, but it is a thing. Wednesdays, we have AEW Dynamite, more wrestling. Agatha All Along on Disney Plus. We'll get into that. Thursday, The Rings of Power and The Old Man, two very different shows. Friday, more wrestling, WWE SmackDown, AEW Rampage. They got Real Time with Bill Maher. And then on Saturdays, you got AEW Collision. Other current shows, Terminator Zero. Watched the first few episodes of it, mostly in the background. Don't even know how much we talked about it last month, but I have not watched it anymore since. And then moving on to podcast, AEW Unrestricted Podcast. I actually have not been consuming it at all. Wrestle Talk, I am indulging in my AEW podcast, as well as the Raw and Collision ones. I actually have to update that. Weekly show, I have not been taking. And Waveform Podcast, I was about 3 or 4 episodes behind. But in the last week or two, I've actually caught up on that. Newcomer section, I guess I didn't talk about Terminator Zero last month because it is part of this newcomer section. Give me a second. We're going to take a quick little break and I'll be back with not only the newcomer section, but also with the memorial section and the special section. You're watching Manic Music Media. So as briefly mentioned earlier, we start off this month's newcomer section with Terminator Zero. Terminator Zero is part of this whole new, not new actually, it's been happening for a bunch of years. I would actually say it's probably one of the staples. It's part of this thing where Netflix just does animes and it allows them to bring a lot of other IPs and just give more content to IPs. So that, for example, they have the Pacific Rim animes, they have the Arcane animes, which I think is what, League of Legends. They have more Godzilla animes. There's another show called Gamera. They have the Ultraman anime. So it's just, people are into anime right now. It's a way to kind of create American animes. It also reminds me of that HBO was also into it for a little bit. For example, HBO has the Rick and Morty anime that they're doing. Also in the month of October, they released this other anime called Uzumaki. And there's a Michael B. Jordan anime that I used to watch on HBO that was called Gen Lock, that I really enjoyed as well. So it's just kind of part of that. And Terminator Zero, it was one of those things. There's been a lot of wrestling, which you'll see when we get to the special section. And I've been also working a lot and working on my own stuff a lot. So normally I have hours where I'm up in the day and I can kind of just put on something in the background and enjoy it. But Terminator Zero, I think I watched the first episode 3 or 4 times before I even finished it, and I enjoyed it, but I really wasn't able to really capture it because I was distracted or doing something else, or kind of just too tired when I really should be in bed. Also, I think we can probably blame my sleep pattern, which has been all over the place. I've been completely, almost entirely nocturnal, which I say is not a commonality, but it also has become the most common thing in my life. So if I'm pretending that it is not the normal, I am probably lying to myself. But with that being said, I enjoyed the first episode of Terminator Zero. I will probably have to watch it again, but it is part of the newcomer section, and it is part of the other shows section because it is something that I do intend to finish, hopefully before the year is up. I do not intend to make it part of the Purgatory section. Next up, we have The Old Man Season 2, which is such a fun show. The first episode of The Old Man I ended up rewatching because when I went to go watch episode 2, when I went to go watch episode 1 of season 2, episode 1 of season 1 just played, and I'm halfway through it, and I'm like, I know I've seen all this before, but it's so good that I'm gonna watch it to the end because I want to finish it. Jeff Bridges just plays such a great role. Aaliyah Shawkat, which I had such praise for in Blink Twice, which I saw last month. Go watch Manic Music Media number 11 to hear me talk about that. It's also been very fun. John Lithgow is always so entertaining, and to see him in a role like this, where he is the John Lithgow that we know and love, but also in this very high tension military capacity. It's just really fun. It's a really fun show that I didn't know where it was starting and where it was going to go up, end up. And now that I'm halfway through season 2, I think currently right now where I'm at, there's 2 episodes left. So next month we'll really be able to dive into the memorial section of it. But the show is fun and where it's gotten. Also, the fact that the show takes place a lot in the Middle East means that the crew has had to hire a lot of Middle Eastern actors, which I'm sure is great for a show as a way of like just inclusion in the television industry. I'm sure not every brown actor wants to play a terrorist or somebody involved in stuff like that, but also as an actor, you know, a job is a job, and if you can take advantage of it, then you will, and that's the part of it. But I'm loving Old Man season 2. It comes out on Fridays. I think they drop the first 2 episodes, and I'm just hooked on it. You know, I make sure that I'm like, I never watch it usually the day it comes out. I usually give it a few days because I have so much fun with it that I really give myself the time to allow it to breathe. Moving on, Agatha All Along. So Agatha All Along is also a show that there's probably about 2 episodes left of where I'm at right now. So I'm glad that this month I can only focus on the beginning of the show because, spoiler alert for next month, I don't love it. And you know this, I probably say it on every episode. I try to only speak about the shows I'm positive about on this show. So I'm not going to dive too much into Agatha All Along. But I will say, the first episode, which, as we saw in the trailer, is like a complete Mayor of Easttown parody. And I thought it was brilliant. I loved the first 25-30 minutes of this season, which is so interesting because as I'm enjoying it, I also know, this show is not going to be like this for a long time. But what it did do is it gave me hope that the rest of the show would be like that. It ended up not being like that at all. But the beginning of the show really, really did it for me. I think it's just because I'm a fan of Mayor of Easttown. So because I love all of these things about the show, watching somebody parody it perfectly makes you just appreciate it even more. It's like watching a Saturday Night Live parody. And Catherine Hahn was really great at that. Like she is, I feel like that is what she is perfect in its capacity at doing. So I really, really went off to a good start with the show. And I'm also glad they dropped the first 2 episodes at the same time. Even though I only watched the first episode and it took me a couple of days before I dropped the second episode, I'm glad I was able to watch them in a 1-week capacity because it quickly showed me that all of the things I loved about the first episode, I was not going to be able to keep indulging with for the rest of the show. It is what it is. This one's just not for me. I also want to give a shout out though to Aubrey Plaza, who is not only in this, is also in My Old Ass, which I reviewed on the last episode, and is also in Megalopolis right now. So, and it's in a bunch of other commercials and stuff that I'm seeing, and it's constantly going viral as like multiple viral videos always happening at the same time. And she's just a star, and all praise to her because she is doing it in her own weird way, and I love her for it. It's actually very inspiring because as long as her career continues, like there's just gonna be so much to watch of her, and I think with time, all of her antics will age even more with it because she's a one-of-one. And then lastly, for the newcomer section, we're also going to talk about a show that I briefly spoke about earlier. So The Penguin. The Penguin is a show that actually started the year off, literally I think it was January 3rd, and I did 4 days acting on the show, mostly like background. I have a little role, but no lines or anything. But it was a really great way to start the year, just in terms of being an actor. Great food on set, like great treatment on set, which I did a few days in the beginning of the year, but for the months following it after, I got myself on a really good breakfast regimen and everything because it was a reminder. I was like, if they're going to treat me this good on this set, I should be treating myself this good on a normal basis. So just from an actor, it was a great place to be on. Being on set with Colin Farrell while he was dressed up in the Penguin outfit, I never saw him outside of the Penguin outfit, and there was no way that I could find the person that was behind Oz. Like he was that, and then there was like the other people who came to set to see him interact with it, which is so cool. So the Penguin is going to have a lasting impact on me, just in terms of not only as an actor, but it also was so fun that it's also a show that it's the first time I've been able to consume a show that I'm also been a part of. As an actor, I've been in other things, but normally the only time I'm watching it is because I know that I'm in it. So this is something that I naturally was already excited for, and then I got an opportunity and a chance to be in it. It's not the only time that has happened this year, which just makes me grateful and makes me appreciative. I'm getting into the Manic music media aspect of it. The Penguin was something we were so excited for, just from how the Matt Reeves Batman left me off. Like, Matt Reeves Batman is a vibe. That, especially last year, and I think maybe the year before it. What year did it? It came out in 2002, right? The Batman came out April 2022. Came out March 2022. So basically, for the rest of the year of March 2022, also when did the Army of the Dead, the Netflix version, that came out in May 2021. Okay, so perfect guess. So Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder version, which you've heard me talk about Zack Snyder on this before. I hated Rebel Moon. But Army of the Dead, the Batman, like those were just vibes and the worlds that I loved being in. So Army of the Dead had the follow-up. What was the Army of the Dead follow-up movie called? The Army of the Dead. It was about the heist. Okay, the Boomy Bear fell. I'll fix you up in a second. Army of Thieves. Army of Thieves created a follow-up that was still in the world of Army of the Dead. And then finding out that the Penguin was going to continue the world of the Batman was something I was super, super excited for. Now, I didn't know what kind of show it would be. Was also a little bit nervous about it because this could go bad. People love Peacemaker. And it's not that I did not love Peacemaker. I actually enjoyed it. But one of my things that I guess qualms about Peacemaker was that Peacemaker was a real villain in the movie, and to make a show that was completely all about him, you had to turn him into a hero, right? Like, you had to make his father worse than him. But I also felt like that took away so much of the nuance that made Peacemaker what he was. Like, I will kill anybody for freedom. Like, he was a hypocrite, he was a oxymoron and all of these things, and the fact that he was a bad guy is what the statement was. So turning him into a good guy, you're changing it into a statement. Like I said, I enjoyed the show, but I did have issues with just the continuity of it. The Penguin, I feel like, is not like that at all, because the Penguin is following the Sopranos template, and that Sopranos template is we are following the bad guy, but we can humanize with the bad guy. There's no reason to try to turn him into the good guy. So the first episode was just brilliant. The way that it started, the way that it completely connected to the Penguin. Like I said, I did a few days on it, so I had a little bit of an example of where the show was going to go, but how it started, just did not expect it to be as great as it was. Renzi, who is also in The Runaways, Renzi Felix, who plays Victor, Renzi Feliz, who plays Victor on the show, like, just the way that his character was brought into it, so fun. And then there is, I guess, episode 3 when he gets into his PTSD. I thought it was just brilliantly done. And then we're in October. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but just yesterday, last night, on this Manic Music Media Sunday, was episode 4, I believe, which was the episode where we really got to see the background on Sophia Falcone and Kristen Melody. Like, she did an amazing thing. People are saying that she might actually get nominated for an Emmy for this, and I think she deserves it because she absolutely killed the role. She destroyed it. She did the character arc of one person to becoming 3 different people in a matter of an hour episode, and it was just brilliantly done. So much more than is basically done in any superhero television. Also, basically any superhero genre in general right now, aside from like The Boys, the things that are really kind of making a parody of the superhero genre. But super brilliant. I gotta give a round of applause because I am loving the Penguin. But that wraps up the Newcomers section. We're gonna stick with this because we're gonna stick with the Memorial section because, as I mentioned last month, it was the end of summer, so there weren't that many episodes. There weren't many that shows that were starting once the shows were waiting for the beginning of September to really get going. So next month we'll have a lot more going with the Memorial section. I did have to have a question of like, should I add Rings of Power to this Memorial section, just because like Rings of Power, I believe, ended like October 1st or something like that. So there was like, I was like, I could talk about it, but I was like, you know what? It ended in October. We'll save it for that last Manic Music Media watch list, even though it'll be a month that have gone by. You won't get my initial reaction to it. You'll get how I'm feeling a month after it. It's already been about 2 weeks since, and my opinion hasn't changed too drastically, so we'll give it another 2 weeks and then we'll dive into that. But our Memorial section. You know, I say this every time this show comes up. Industry is the most underrated show on television. It is up there with Succession levels of good. This season knocked it out the park again. It did so many things that was unexpected. It spent a lot more time on characters that always don't get the attention, but the way that the show is built, it puts itself in a position to do that. As I'm looking over the cast right now, I'm just noticing that David Johnson wasn't even in this season of the show, and I loved his character, but this show was so good this season that it didn't matter. The addition of Kit Harington was really great. Kit Harington played the worst type of villain on the show. He wasn't a villain, he was just a rich sucker, and it sucked. It made me hate him. He played it so good. It was levels of Silicon Valley parody, but also it's not a comedy. Even though there are funny parts to it, it's not a comedy, so it just feels gross. Marissa Abella, who I believe they're really is the person that is becoming the biggest star on the show, just in terms of Hollywood and whatnot, especially with her doing the Amy Winehouse film, which I don't let me take away from Harry Lawdy, who I was very surprised to see playing Harvey Dent in Joker Fully I Do. Ooh, Joker 2. We'll talk about that next month as well. But back to Marissa Abella, I just really, it's great to see her as a star on this show. Myhala, you know, I make it no problem. I have such a huge crush on her. She is the heart and soul of the show. I feel like she's the main character of the show. I feel like in ways the show did not focus on her as much this season, but no matter what, every time she's on screen, she demands it. And not only as an actress, but as a character, her character is a beast. She is a hardcore monster on the show, and I love it. It makes me grit my teeth. It makes me punch in the air. It's so good. Sweet Pea's character was also great. Harper's character with Petra, relationship was so great. Petra's character had such a great twist because you wanted to almost turn her into a villain. You wanted her to be somebody who was brainless and did not have a mind, but she wasn't. Ken Ling's character is pathetic, but also incredible. Just his art, it's gross. He's a bad father. He is insecure, but also he's a monster, and he exists in this world so perfectly. And I think there's so many people that I really could give shout outs on the show. Also, the way that the show connected so many of the characters from the first 2 seasons. I can gush about the show, but the last person who I am really going to give attention to is Rishi's character. Sagar Radia is the actor, or maybe it's Sagar, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, sorry if I got the name wrong. But Rishi's character had his own special episode this season, and it was delicious. Oh my god, just thinking about the way that the season ended, it makes my stomach hurt. What a fucking insane world this show is. It is Game of Thrones level fucked up, and it can go anywhere because it's people dealing with billions of dollars. And I think next season they're coming to New York City, and hopefully they haven't started shooting it. I don't want to do days on it. Like, don't get me wrong, as an actor, I do want to do days on it, but I also don't want to do days on it because I want a real pivotal role on the show because I'm passionate about it, and I have so much that so many good things to say about it, and I want to be able to go out on a press tour and talk about how much I love the show before it happened. All right, just set myself a goal of something I have to work on myself. But Succession, I am actually super glad that it was the only show that was part of this month's memorial section because it is probably going to be my #1 show for the year. It is so good, and I just wish more people were watching it. But I also think that part of the reason why I love it so much is because it's my show. It's a show that I know nobody else is watching it, and HBO does it. I just talked about how good The Penguin was. Like, HBO is constantly doing it, and to feel like the fact that HBO does so much and still have sleepers that are bangers is great for a person like me who just wants to be part of a great community of people who are not manipulated by the talks of everybody else, but can just find things that they truly appreciate that mean so much to yourself. Like, it's not niche at all because the show is great and can literally speak to everybody else, just not as big as it could be. Even though, don't get me wrong, all of these characters are they're getting spots on the late night, these actors, they're getting spots on the late night television shows. So people are paying attention to it. I do think that people know that it is a great show. It's just the complete mainstream hasn't touched it, and that doesn't take away from it at all. And we're going to wrap up this segment of September's Manic Music Media Monday with just covering the specials because in terms of the specials, it's mostly all wrestling, which we don't talk too much about on this show. If you're interested in more wrestling talk, make sure you check out my art house, a seriously cool conglomerate, or you can just call us the Cool Company, Cool Co. We make wrestling content. We have my show, Cuz Tyler P Said So, which is basically me covering wrestling doing watch-alongs, some wrestling commentary, and also in this next month we have launched a new project. Well, not really launched a new project, taking steps forward with the new project. I'm not going to say too much here, but by next month in Manic Music Media, there will be even more wrestling content. So it's exciting. Also, means a lot more on our plate, but that's okay. That is what we do this for, and it's exciting to be able to have the ability to do it. So let's cover these specials real quick. Bash in Berlin, great WWE show. No Mercy, actually great NXT WWE development show. 24 Damian Priest came out a few months ago when Damian Priest was still world champion, but I got around to watching it almost accidentally, and it was beautiful as a story about a Puerto Rican wrestler from New York City. There were moments in it where I was crying. His family, though we're very different, resembled members of my family, and it really spoke to me. Really, really beautiful special. Believe it or not, WWE does some of the greatest documentaries that are created in media. Capital Collision was a New Japan show. It took me a few weeks to watch that. I actually didn't know too much about it. Like I said, I've been so overconsumed with so much other wrestling and so many other things that New Japan wrestling is the first thing that goes out the door. Then we had AEW All Out, which was an incredible wrestling show. And one of the most hardcore wrestling matches of all time. As I talk about it, I want to go put it on right now. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page. What a absolutely incredible wrestling match. Then you had the 2024 presidential debate, which is probably a lot similar to WWE and wrestling in way too many ways. I don't really want to talk about that right now. And then you had UFC 306 Riyadh Season Noche, which was the UFC show that was in the Sphere. Now, the weekend that UFC happened, I was actually away camping. That's another reason why it was hard to keep up with things in September. I went away for 2 different weekends. So it was just days of not consuming anything, which I'm perfectly okay with. Happy to get away, but it's part of the reason why. I was delayed on so many things. But UFC 306 on the camping trip, I have a friend who went to see a show at the Sphere, and she was at the Sphere, excuse me, and she was saying like, I don't really see why a show like UFC would be the thing to watch there, because you know when you go to the UFC, when you go to the Sphere, you want to look up rather than look down. So I was not only excited because I thought it'd be a good UFC show, I fit into that bro category, but also because I wanted to see what they would do with the actual Sphere, how they would bring the show together. Part of the reason why I treat these specials on the same level that I treat films and documentaries, because the way that they put it together all speaks to the story that is being told with these things. So with UFC 306, I ended up being very impressed with what they did with the Sphere, because all the attention was still on the cage, as it should be, but for the entrances and for they told basically I think like a 6 or 8 part movie throughout the night. So it was moments where it took everybody's attraction up to the top of the Sphere, and then when it was during the show, it was back during there, and then I think they also used the Sphere for screens or whatnot. So still, cool way to produce television, and I'm into things like that. When we come back, we have the film list, then we got the music list, and then we'll head out of here with an outro. See you in a second. Manic Music Media. Now, the fun thing about this month's film list, and probably the film list going forward, moving on, actually, as you can see right here, right next to me, is that I've been doing 1-minute Manic Music Media reviews, basically for just about every movie that I've been seeing in the theater, along with trailer watch-alongs and stuff like that on switch.nyc on the same YouTube channel that you can find this that you're watching right here. So the cool thing about that is if you really want to know my immediate reactions right after I get out of the theater for just about every movie on this list except for one, it is out. There's also a playlist of all of the videos right there if you just want to watch them all back to back, just to get an idea of how I think about movies and things moving forward. But doesn't mean we won't get into them in even more detail here. So we'll start off with my old ass. Once again, gotta give a shout out to Aubrey Plaza, who's killing it right now. Seems like she's making movies that completely touch the person who she is and the roles that she wants to do. Some fun, some exciting, but somehow she always finds a way to be herself. So the reason I saw my old ass was because it was part of AMC's Screen Unscreen, which I also basically define what it is every month. If you're an AMC A-lister like I am, which means you pay a certain amount monthly, which allows you to see 3 movies a week, basically not for free because you pay for it, but you're allowed to see 3 movies. That's the deal. So they do AMC Screen Unscreen, which are essentially like Mystery Mondays. You don't know what movie you are going to see until you sit down in the theaters and the picture begins. But Reddit has a AUS Unscreen Screen ASU AMC whatever. Reddit has a thread where basically people are always constantly trying to figure out what it is, and they're usually on point because AMC has their mystery thing and a bunch of other theaters have their own mystery things, and sometimes they reveal it early, so everybody can kind of get a pinpoint about what movie is about to come out. So I'd only seen the trailer for my old ass, I think like 1 or 2 days before. Saw that it was a Screen Unscreen. Didn't know that it was a movie I was going to want to see, but when I sat down in the theater, I was happy that Reddit was right. I was happy to go see it. I enjoyed it even more than I thought it was. It's one of those movies that, I mean, if you think about it too much, you're like, well, how does this work logically, right? Like a girl just shrooms and she meets her future self. Love the concept. Think that if it was like a Hulu or like a CW sitcom television show, it'd be something that the concept would only be able to last for so long and the series would extend so much longer that I think it would actually be bad. Before a movie that's around an hour and a half, 90 minutes or so, I feel like the concept was perfect. It was enough to give you an intro into it, show you how it works a little bit, and then end it. I described it, the film, as a Disney Channel original movie, like the movies that play on Disney Channel, but just with sex, drugs, bisexuality, and all of those things, like real life stuff. Like when I remember when I was growing up watching Disney Channel movies, what I loved them, but what I wanted them to do was like be about my life in the Bronx and be about like people getting jumped and be about like drugs and stuff, because I knew that like my niche was there for that. And I do think that Degrassi, because it was a Canadian show, it filled that vibe up a little bit, but like it still wasn't exactly what I wanted. So now I do think with Netflix and HBO, like with all of these other things, they actually do have time for that niche. What is that other Netflix show that I ended up seeing a few episodes of when I was hanging out with a friend? Never Have I Ever. It's like another show. It's like about teenagers in high school having sex and stuff like that, and that was the kind of show that I watched. I feel like my old ass really does fill that genre. I remember doing some research when it first started. I think Megan Park is like she's a 38-year-old writer, and it's really a film that like came from her mind. And I do think that like she's, as somebody who is a person from my age range, from my demographic, I can really relate to why she would want to create a movie like that. And then Maisie Stella, which I did not know anything about until I had done some research on this. I found out that she was like a singer, as well as like an actress who was on like Nashville, and like now this is kind of like her like kind of making movies on her own. And another praise I gave to her was that the way that she spoke in the movie, just like the actual dialogue, felt like it came from her. It felt like so much of it was probably evolved or adapted into how she would say things, because it was not the way that scripts are being written. And I do think it very much spoke to her generation. It made me feel old the way that she was speaking, but as someone who spoke to a 20-year-old on set just a few days ago for a few hours, like that generation has a way that they speak that is different from my generation, just as I'm sure I spoke different from the generation before me. And I do think that the way that she spoke was genuine and authentic, and I really appreciated that for a movie that had so much heart. The last person I'm going to give a shout out to is Percy Hydes-White, who was such a sweet boy in that movie. And I did not know as I was watching it, I'm like, where have I seen this kid before? And I realized The Gifted. I had watched how many seasons were there of The Gifted? I think there were 3 seasons of The Gifted. No, 2 seasons of The Gifted. And he was the little boy in it. So I did have a connection with him. So it's probably why I was like, felt away from him. I guess he's also on Wednesday, but I haven't watched any of that. But truly enjoyed my own ass. It was great. Now, Unfightable was very different, a movie. Unfightable I only went to because my friend, who I've been mentioning on this channel a lot, DJ SJ614, he had tickets to this documentary that he didn't really know too much about, and he knew that I was into stuff like that, so he invited me. So basically, Unfightable is the story of Alana McLaughlin, a transgender woman. She used to be in the military, special forces, and she was like an extreme activist, Antifa activist during the pandemic, during the Black Lives Matter, during the Me Too movement and whatever. And essentially she got the chance to be in a UFC fight, but then it comes to the question of she doesn't want to fight men, but as a trans woman who was born a man, she should fight women. And eventually got to the storyline of basically of how the fight came together, and then telling the story of this person. And then after the movie, Alana was in there in the theater, and we got to do a Q&A about it. The Q&A had people who asked questions that Alana definitely did not love, but it allowed the chance for that dialogue. So in terms of an experience, it was cool to see. I don't think as a documentary it's going to get much huge acclaim. I don't think it's going to reach much further than it probably has already. I do think it's very controversial. I do think that many people are not going to agree with the message, just because it is a hot topic in society today. But I do think that the documentary was well made. I do think it felt low budget. It was a low budget documentary, but seeing the director Mark Perez and hearing his perspective on it, I thought was very interesting. I also thought what I took mostly about it, just kind of pushing the topic to the side. Alana as a person is a very kind of aggressive, not the friendliest person. So what was most interesting to me is you're not the person, you're like a kind of a aggravator, right? You can get aggravated, and then your presence can also aggravate other people. So I was very interested in how, when a person like that has a documentary made about them, how does that make you feel? And they touched a bit about that in the Q&A, and I thought it was very interesting. But Unfightable, I'm always going to be up for watching independent films, films that are not in the mainstream. I spent so much time talking about huge production things that sometimes I do not feel guilty, but I do wish that I was able to indulge in more low budget, more independent things. So shout out to Derek for giving me the opportunity to be able to do so. He is a very good friend at that, at creating a community and creating space to connect with the right people like that, and I appreciate him for that. Moving on, we have Speak No Evil. My review of Speak No Evil was, it is a movie about stupid people who got themselves into some stupid shit, and they had to figure out how to get themselves out of it. And I still kind of stand by that. It was such a fun movie. It was horror, suspense, but exciting, upsetting, Scott McNairy's character. I have a habit, at least recently, of saying that I don't like horror films because the characters are stupid, and I stand by that. But I think I have to retire that statement, just because it's one of those things that gets overblown and generalized, because I'm here for the suspense films, I'm here for the thriller films. Since this, I've seen Never Let Go, which I enjoyed. We'll talk about that next month. But it's not the horror films that I have any issue with. It's just the fact that a lot of these scary slasher films do that last girl formula, and I don't love that. But that's not all horror and suspense films, so I think I'm gonna quietly retire that statement and move on. But Speak No Evil had such a good time with it. Moving forward, Transformers 1. Now, Transformers 1 wasn't a movie that I really wanted to see too much. I looked at the trailers and I didn't think it was very good. The Michael Bay Transformers films have gotten probably gradually worse and worse, and how many of those are there? There's so many, even after they revitalized them with the Bumblebee, and then went back to the Transformers IP. I didn't even see the Bumblebee one for years, so I wasn't that excited about seeing this, but I was, just kind of in that summer blockbusters. It's the end of summer, it's September, let's go see it. So I decided to go see it in IMAX 3D, and I was accompanied by my good friend Derek, and Derek enjoyed it more than I did. I got merch, I don't know if you can see here, I got some keychains here, I got some posters, got a comic book, and that's what it was for. It was made for kids. Like I said in my review, I have to go get that. I think I said in my review, if I went to go see it with an 8-year-old, it would have been like the perfect thing. So I did leave the theater like kind of being a little down on it, being like, it was whatever. But Derek had more fun with it, saw it with a more open mind. And then my friend Nia, she had actually gone to see it a few days before me, but Nia has seen maybe one of the first Transformers films, but knows nothing about it and does not remember it. So the storyline actually like all came as a surprise to her. She didn't know what to expect. So the whole thing was shocking to her. And just hearing that perspective made me think like, okay, if you're a child and this is your first experience with Transformers, I understand. And that's kind of what you have to do, right? You have to bring a franchise like back every 10 years, right? Because what you're doing is you're introducing it to the next set of generation, and that's how things live forever. That's what these companies have figured out. So the movie was made for toys. Big surprise. It's Transformers. It is literally based off of a toy. So who am I to complain about that, I guess? Moving forward, The Substance. Now, I had heard so much about The Substance, but then, so I was like, yo, I gotta go see The Substance. I gotta go see The Substance. Even when I went to go see Unfightable, the movie theater, I guess that they rented out for the Q&A, had like The Substance pins. So I actually have free, I took a few of them. I have a few Substance pins that I can put on the jacket too. So I had been really wanting to see The Substance. So right after I bought the tickets, I realized like, I didn't even watch the trailer for this movie. I'm just wanting to see it because everybody's talking about how weird it is and how crazy it is. So then I watched the trailer. That's when I found out Demi Moore was going to be in it. That's when I found out Margaret Qualley was even in it. And then basically the next step, I'm sitting in the movie theater watching it. Now, The Substance, I called it a horrendous film, and I stand by that. It is gross. It is disgusting. It is nasty. It is body horror. With 2024 prosthetics and 2024 visuals, it is literally gross. It is a nasty movie to watch, but that is the point of it. Like, it is there to serve the purpose. From the beginning of the movie, it's like telling you this is a metaphor, and we are going to show you this in a fantastical way, and we are not going to explain too much about it. Kind of in a sense, my old ass, I give it that. Like, if you build me this world and you fill all of the circles and you only answer the questions that matter, I'm okay with that. You don't have to. Not everything has to work in a scientifical, dark, gritty Zack Snyder and Matt Reeves world. But The Substance is a metaphor all the way through, and it was genuinely disgusting to watch. But the sound design, like the visuals of people's faces, skincare, which I spoke about last month, was also very good at that as well. It is this new genre of like thriller, suspense, but also like clinical. I don't really know how to describe it. When I was trying to break it down to my mom, she brought up that Antonio Banderas movie where he plays that doctor, and it's kind of in that realm too. That was maybe one of the first movies The Skin I Live In. That movie came out in 2011, so that was maybe one of the first movies I had seen like that. And now it's like really a thing, and A24 is obviously the king of that in so many ways. But The Substance, I wasn't even connected to any of that, but it was amazing. And also, it was amazing just to see Demi Moore have like, you know, in this new point of her career, be able to have a new side of her. And Margaret Qualley is just killing it. She's in all of these movies, and I just saw one of her, like, I don't know, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, TikTok interview clips, and she's just the sweetest, cutest Southern thing in the world. So all power to her. And then the last movie on the film list that was new that I watched was a movie called White Bird. So I already explained what the AMC screen unscreen is. So White Bird, when I saw the movie, Reddit had figured it out. Like I said, Reddit's really good at that. So I watched the trailer for it, was expecting to go see White Bird. I think I walked into the movie theater a few minutes late, so I missed maybe the first 2 minutes of it. So I experienced the whole movie, only to find out after, when I'm trying to do a little bit of research on it, that White Bird is a prequel as well as a sequel to that other movie, Wonder, that came out like 7 years ago. So the whole time I'm watching the movie, I did not know that they had this connection, which you don't need to know, because White Bird was just a beautiful story about this town in Germany and this girl during the World War II. This girl who literally goes from being an upper class little girl to having to go in hiding and losing her parents because the war happened, and all of the Jewish little kids have to go into hiding. It's about this family who kind of protects her and saves her, and it's just this beautiful love story that talks about humanity and kindness. It had me crying. And like, one of the beauties of it is the reason why the grandmother is telling her grandson, which is the bully from that movie Wonder, all of these things that matters, because she's trying to implant in him why humanity is important and why kindness is important. And that is what the movie is doing, especially in this time of war. It's just like saying people can be beautiful, and as I talk about it, it makes my chest tight, because it really was a beautiful sign of how beautiful humans can be in the world that we can live in, but also how hateful and how terrible the world we can live in. But White Bird, not a movie that I would have ever watched without AMC screen on screen, so that's why I'm such an advocate for that. Just going to the movies and just being there and accepting what's in front of you, because not only do we not do that in a film world anymore, but we also don't do it in a streaming world, so we also don't really do it at home, whereas like you used to flip through the channels. Well, my parents still do it, but you flip through the channels and you just like get caught onto something and you watch it with no expectations, no thoughts. It allows for so much open-mindedness, and like it opens you up to experiences that you may not have known because somebody curated this and programmed this for a reason. That's my rant about the streaming industry for this week. And then the rewatches for the film list were The Blind Side. Now, speaking of curations, the reason why I watched The Blind Side was because it came on USA after I'm watching wrestling. And I've seen The Blind Side before, but as I'm watching it, I'm watching the first 15 minutes of it. I'm like, dang, this movie is good. Let me watch it. I want to know where it goes. Also, I'm extra interested in it because now we have heard, I don't even know what year The Blind Side came out. only we had this thing named the internet that could tell us things. So Blindside came on in 2009. So now almost 15 years later, we've heard the story of like how like that guy doesn't really appreciate the story, and he says like it's not exactly how it would be, yada 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 yada. Like, so it was interesting watching it from this point of view with that perspective. But in terms of a movie, it's still good. It still stands up, even if it's not factual, even if the story is actually sadder than what it looks like in that movie, like all biopics are. It actually still stands up. Like Sandra Bullock kills it in that movie. And then moving on, the final movie we'll talk about for this month's film list is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I just put it on because I need a feel-good movie, and it's still a sad, strong, good movie. I don't think that it does stand up. It does like have the same lasting impact that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has. I mean that the first Black Panther has, and I think it's partially because the movie has to make Shuri like a strong main character, as well as make her the Black Panther at the same time. It has to explain it, as well as like have all of this grieving room. So a lot of things happen, and a lot of things happen very quickly in it. But I still love the movie. I still love Namor's story. It's beautiful. It's definitely probably like, I don't even know, maybe in the top 10 Marvel films, lower on that list. But it's still such a great movie. Wakanda Forever. We'll be back for the music list on this month's Manic Music Media. So this month's music list is basically conquered by one band because something actually kind of really big happened in the music industry, at least for kids from my generation who grew up the way I did. Linkin Park, in the last couple months, has a new lead singer and they're putting out new music. They put out, I think, 2 or 3 singles currently at this very moment. And, you know, Eminem put out an album a few months ago. I still haven't listened to it, partially just because I want to stream it. Just had like a live listening of it, which as I'm talking about this now, I should probably do the same for the Linkin Park album when it does drop later on this year, November 15th. But just to get into what Linkin Park is like, I remember the first day that I heard Linkin Park, it was the same day I went to go see Little Nicky in concert. So that had to be the year Little Nicky in concert, the same year I went to see Little Nicky in the theater. So that was the year 2000. So I think that was the first time I ever heard Linkin Park. Seen them in concert, you know, built my own bands off of them. In the 7th grade, we had a band called Forsaken, and there were 7 of us. We had drummers and rappers and screamers and all of this thing. Like, Linkin Park is one of those bands that truly formed who I was. And so vital in that Linkin Park is Chester Bennington and Mike Shinoda. Chester Bennington, who, you know, as just a kid, you grow up, there are these people that just like leave lasting impressions on you. Chester Bennington, him and his voice do that. You know, Jeff Hardy, kind of just the same thing. So when Chester died, it really was like a huge deal. It really was like a big deal. Like, I think I've seen Linkin Park in concert 3 times, 2 or 3 times, and it's like, damn, I'm never going to be able to see Chester Bennington again. It was a really big deal. But I also, you know, I follow Linkin Park so much that I know that the band was a band before Chester was there. So when I hear that they are like reforming with the new members, like, I mean, it's just my opinion on it, doesn't matter in the first place, but I am so interested in it because I do wonder what the grieving experience is for the band, because I know I had a grieving experience of my own, and then, you know, even like stepping away from listening to the music due to grieving, and then knowing, like, having moments when you come back to it. So this ended up becoming one of these moments as the band also came back together. So I've been listening to a lot of the albums, not only the albums that I already love, like Hybrid Theory, Meteora, a few songs, like Not Alone, that I already love. I went back to that and listened to that in the gym, but also I've been listening to the Linkin Park albums that I haven't listened to over the years because there's like a good vibe that like I just never really consumed, partially never gave a chance, maybe only listened to once, maybe didn't listen to it at all. So 1,000 Suns happens to be one of those as well, just because I have those on the re-listens list. Just to finish off the re-listens before we continue, Crybaby, Tegan and Sarah, you know, that was my album of like 2002, so I had to bring it back just because sometimes I need music that brings familiarity to it. But sticking with Linkin Park, the new singles that we have this month are both singles from that upcoming album from Linkin Park, The Empty Machine and Heavy Is the Crown, and I enjoy both of them. Like, they're very much, it does sound like Linkin Park, it does sound like a modern Linkin Park. I'm in a different phase in my life where I don't need Linkin Park in the way I need like a Young Thug album or I need like a Kendrick album, you know, I'm just like in a different place, I feel a different way. But I did like them. I will listen to the Linkin Park album. I don't know if it will just be one of those albums I listen to once or twice or whenever I'm in the mood, or maybe I will really fall in love with it. I would love to really fall in love with it. But even if I don't, Linkin Park has done so much for me in this lifetime that they don't have to give me anything else. I am more than satisfied and they're more than justified to do whatever they want. But I do like the new lead singer. I do like her voice. I do like her versions of some of the new band songs. Emily Armstrong, like, shout out to her. The other guy, Colin, like, they seem like cool guys. Watching the what is his name? His name is not Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe. Watching the Apple Music interview with Zane Lowe and Linkin Park was just nice to like see Phoenix and like see Han again, and like these people are people I idolize. I like dressed like them, so much of it. So I'm just happy that they're all happy and that they've had a chance to move on with their lives, as we all have been trying to since the passing of Chester Bennington. And my birthday month is December. The Linkin Park song called My December. It's on the Reanimation album. It's a remix version of it, but I believe on the Hybrid Theory extended play for the first album, like the deluxe edition. There's also a piano version of it. Am I making that up? I'm looking it up right now. My head here open in the end, high voltage. That's all from the animation. Whatever. There is a piano version of My December that is somewhere, and it's just like one of my favorite songs of all time. And I cannot go through a December or go through a birthday month without listening to it multiple times, because it is a feeling that connects to me so strongly. And I also believe that Mike Shinoda wrote it. So like, once again, it's not just Chester, it is Linkin Park as a total that has left such a lasting impact on me. And the last piece of music that we will talk about for this month was Jamie XX's In Waves album, which, you know, has been on the upcoming list. I've been excited for it for months, and I just love Jamie XX. I love his music. I've mentioned on the last one how much I love the XX. So how was the album? It lived up to expectations. It hasn't been on like full rotation, not because I don't love it, but just because I haven't been traveling in the same way that, so I haven't had as many chances to listen to it, but I have been listening to it at the album. And I mean, I have been listening to it in the gym. I do really love it. I love the intro on it. I haven't really like been able to connect with each song individually, except for the songs I was already really into, like Treat Each Other Right, which is great. Baddie on the Floor, which I had already heard. I love that Honey Dijon verse on Baddie on the Floor. Daffodil, it's really cool. And I'll be looking more into the other artists in it. Like I believe Kelsey Lou is one of the rappers on it, or she's a singer on it, whatever. I gotta do more research into it, but I'm loving that song. Life, if you know me, I love Robin. In the same way that I just talked about how much of a song like My December connects to me, and it like means so much to me in my life. Robin's Dancing by Myself is another song that has like an equal amount of weight to it, but it's from a very different period of my life. So Robin, I love that she has a song about life, Vogue kind of 90s club. It's just everything. Jamie XX, I love that song too, and it's not even my favorite song on the album, but I do love the vibes and I do love the energy of it. And All You Children, which also had dropped earlier, it's just a great song. All You Children is probably the best song that I've been listening to it in the gym. And then, I just realized that there's a deluxe edition that has a song with Erykah Badu that I have not heard, so I need to go listen to that. So I do. In Waves will probably be in rotation by next month's watch list, and I'll be continuing to listen to it and to enjoy it. And that was the music list for this month's Manic Music Media. We shall return with an outro to talk about all of the things we are excited about, and to just briefly talk about the things that have been left behind. We'll be right back. And there we have it, folks. I think we can officially call it a streak, an MTV Thresh. 3 months in a row, we're back on it with Manic Music Media. We're gonna finish this year equally as strong as well, and we are going to keep this ball rolling. And we'll do some housekeeping in a bit. We'll talk a little bit about In Purgatory, which has not changed since last month. It's still loving WWE. That beautiful Bianca Belair and Montez Ford reality show that I'm never going to finish because it's too beautifully lovey-dovey. Vince Staples show, which I probably have committed to, that when the next season comes out, I'll probably finish it. On the Road, which I enjoy, but Jason Momoa touches a lot of people. Knuckles is made for kids. I probably won't get back to it just because there's always going to be something more important to it than watch. Dark Matter, I've actually just gotten Apple TV for free for a couple of months. So there's a chance that it comes back. G1, Climax, we're not going to do any of those wrestling dates because I know who the G1 winner is. And actually, as of today, the G1 winner, Zack Sabre Jr., is actually now the IGWP World Champion. He beat Tetsuya Naito this past week. So there you go, ZSJ. You don't even have to wait till Wrestle Kingdom to do it. High Stakes probably won't watch as well. TNA, Impact, Ring of Honor, NXT to level up. There's too much other wrestling going on right now. That's all going to stay in Purgatory. And then the things I'm excited about, the shows I'm still excited about that are upcoming are still a month away. June Prophecy, which we still don't have a date for yet, which also been added to this list since is Silo Season 2, which drops November 15th. And then Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Jude Law drops at the end of the year. And then films I'm excited about, Megalopolis. I've actually had tickets for it last Friday. Also, it's already gotten terrible reviews. I had tickets for it last Friday. I had to change those tickets. I think I changed it to Sunday. My tickets at Sunday were for 4 p.m. I woke up at 3:55 p.m. with just enough time to cancel the tickets. Maybe I'll go see it this week. I don't know. I've also seen The Wild Robot already. There is a Manic Music and Media review that will be coming out for it maybe today. So should be out by the time you're watching this Manic Music Media. Joker Fully Outdo, the review for that has already been out, and that is probably the biggest disappointment of the year. We'll talk more about that next month. Moana 2, don't know why that's on this list. Venom The Last Dance, we'll have had seen that next month as well. I already have my tickets for it, and Kraven the Hunter. In terms of specials, I've already seen Bad Blood, already seen UFC 307, Wrestle Dream was this past weekend, and the rest of the year it's just UFC and more wrestling. And then, as we already mentioned, next month's Linkin Park From Zero album. I'm excited to hear that. Let's see the lasting impact that has on me. And there you go. We have watched it. Manic Music Media. We've gone through the watch list for the month of September. As mentioned, if you want updates on the watch list on a weekly basis as I update them, not only join Switch's Theory of Cool newsletter on Substack, but also download the app and you'll get notifications on every update I do. Also, you'll get the newsletter emails if you don't sign up for, if you don't download the app. Also, if you're interested in merch and apparel, check out switch.shop or check out all my apparel at apkc.shop. If you're interested in just learning more of my updates, things like my music and things like that, you can check out switch.life. And hopefully by this time next month, we'll have a new website for the music as well. So things are moving and I am having fun with this. Subscribe, like, comment, share here on switch.nyc. And if you want to get my Manic Music Media reviews as I drop them throughout the month, you can follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, or like I said, subscribe here on YouTube, switch.nyc. We've done it. Another Manic Music Media. I am your favorite maniac. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. And we're going to keep pushing this streak past 3. We're moving forward. We got new things coming. It is a new day. It is a new life. It is a new life for me. Thank you for watching. I'm your favorite maniac, and I appreciate you.
Switch.